Recently, I got this magazine in the mail, and it just kind of provoked me to have to talk about this subject because people don't realize how the media can use subliminal subjects to bring out the real world that we're living in. This picture behind me is from a AAA magazine, and if you look at it, you can see that it's a white man peddling one of these kinds of, it's like a little go-kart, but it's more or less he's doing a service where he's transporting somebody else behind him to a service or to a particular place. And this is very common in Hong Kong and other places like in China. But it's very, very distinctive in what the premise of this subject's about. It shows a black woman being the person who he is transporting. And then the man, very distinctive as well, because number one, he's a male, a man. Number two, he's white. He's not black. The woman is black. And what is this implying? Well, it implies that the slave trade, which people believe only happens in certain third world countries, it doesn't happen in America. Well, it doesn't have to be like during the time of the Civil War where blacks were literally slaves. You can be a slave to somebody else just in how you are projected through media, photographs, through how you're treated by everybody else. Now, here's what I'm trying to bring out. Today in America, if you say the N-word, you're considered a racist, right? Well, a black can call a black person the N-word, and it's not considered to be racism. Now, the question is, how can that be if equality is supposed to be as much towards the white as especially to the black person? That the black is supposed to be under the same stipulations of hate crime, they're under the same stipulation of saying things or doing things, or now this ridiculous idea called thought crime. Well, I say this picture proves there is a double standard between the white and the black, because they are seen being better than whites. They're being seen as projected as now they're the majority. No longer is it that whites were always seen as the majority and the black as the minority. And that's the philosophy now in court. The courts still say that the white is the supposed majority. But if you look at the census of the United States, it shows there are more blacks in this country than there are whites. So in a technical sense, it's not a fair interpretation to say that a white person is a bigot or he's a racist when there are more blacks than there are whites in this country today. And in that same contrast, for them to get away with saying things that are considered to be hate crime words, and then the white can't say the same thing, I would say they're more racist than whites because they can get away with it. They can say it to each other and it's not racism. But then they flip the coin and say because a white man said it, he's a racist, he's a bigot, he's this, he's that, and it's like they literally want to lynch any white person who even says the word to a black person. And that's why I call this video Slave Trade, because there is totally the opposite scenario today in America compared to at the time that the blacks were being ostracized, condemned for things that they did back in the 40s and the 50s and the 30s, 20s. And now they flipped the coin. Now they're totally using that philosophy against white people. And I don't see where it makes any sense. If people want the country to be free, they want people to be equal to each other. You cannot just single out one race, being whites, and say, you say these things against a black person, you've committed murder as far as blacks are concerned. Now they say, and over again, blacks have every legal right to kill each other, kill whites, kill whoever. And then what did Obama say during his presidency? Well, it's just their culture. That's how we do things. And being a black president, he said it, and it was like God himself has just specifically stated that our race of blacks can do whatever we want, and nobody else can say diddly. You can't condemn somebody who's black for saying a hate word. You can't condemn a black for looting, vandalism, anything else that they do. It's no longer considered a crime for blacks to do those things because they have a status quo that's level even higher than a white person used to have. And it just, to me, it makes no sense. How can society say things are better today because of what we have given to other ethnic groups, blacks, Latinos, Muslims? That's another subject that I'm going to mention in this video. They're saying that it is unconstitutional, and it is, for Sharia law to exist in America because it is in contradiction to equality, to fairness of women and men. Because under Sharia law, the woman is nothing, the man is everything. I'm not against that philosophy, but I am against the idea that they can take that and turn it against whites over blacks or blacks over whites and say the black is up here, he's everything, the white is nothing, he's down here. And then you see it in the ads showing that the black has the superior intellect, they have the superior mentality, that they're better than everybody else. And so it comes through in everything that they talk about and how they are projected, that they're better, that they, for whatever reason, you know. Here's a wake-up call for people who think only blacks were slaves. My great-grandfather came to America as an indentured servant. You know what an indentured servant is? This is somebody who did a crime, and in order for them to complete the repayment of that crime, and in this case, I'm sure it was, he stole something, he had to work that debt off for somebody who he stole from. Now, he came from Ireland. So they brought him to America because they were coming here to live, and they said, you come with us, you pay off your debt, and you can stay in America, and he did. But the fact that he was an indentured servant means you couldn't do anything except work for that other person until your debt was paid. The blacks did the same thing, except they didn't do a crime, but they did have that distinction of being considered as servant because they were under the colonies who came here first, and then they brought the slaves from Africa. And so now today it's like the blacks only want to emphasize the Confederate War that was between the states in the Civil War, instead of them saying the American flag itself should be a hate symbol because the United States already existed when the blacks came here as slaves. So really, it isn't the Confederate battle flag that's the hate symbol. It ought to be the American flag, because Abraham Lincoln and every president before him, including George Washington, were slave owners. So now the blacks, 150 some odd years later, are saying, well, we don't want to bring up everything, we're just going to talk about certain things that relate directly to the South, to the blacks. In other words, they're centrally showing hate towards particular regions of America instead of it being what the whole war was about. And again, that shows the philosophy in society that the blacks were subjugated, they were this, they were that. And so now it's totally acceptable by the majority of people in this country to say, we're not going to allow that anymore. We're even going to subjugate you to destroy things that by history's preservation should be remembered. And that includes the battle flag. But America is saying, no, we don't need those things anymore. We don't need that. We don't need this. We have to give the black the benefit of the doubt because they at one time were slaves, and now we have to find some way of giving them retribution. Part of it is a campaign you see over and over again. They're better than everybody else. They're entitled to more than everybody else, and that's not equality, which is what America's supposed to be. Everybody is seen as equal, but that's not how you're seeing it around you. Society is projecting one philosophy, one viewpoint, and that's why I say it's still a slave trade in America, because now they flipped it. Now they're saying physically you're not actually under our control as we're your master, you're our slave, but they've done it in several other indiscreet ways, and anybody with half a brain can look at these ads and know it has to do with one philosophy, that the black is now superior to everybody else, and the white person himself, herself, will be subjugated to the black mentality from here on out, because you cannot say certain things about blacks. You cannot have certain things that a black says is offensive to them. And I say, if that all is true, then what happened to our rights as American citizens to say, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, but I also say it's my freedom and it's my right as well to have what I have. Whether it be my Confederate flag on my car, whether it be at my house. And Obama was in office at the time this was going on. People forget this. There was an attack against anybody and anything that had any references to the Confederacy. The state of Georgia, they were told you must completely retract and exempt people from having Confederate battle flags, because the sons of the Confederate veterans have that on all their plates, they have it on all their documentation. And you can't believe the kind of hate crime that Nathan Deal committed by instantly reacting to that situation and saying, we have to recall all the plates, we have to recall and destroy all Confederate emblems and everything else that represents what the history of America was about, especially the southeastern United States. And thankfully there's a provision in the law, at least in Georgia, that says you cannot deny somebody else the right to have that flag, to have that emblem. So then the blacks retaliated and said, well, we don't want to see it. We don't want to see it at your house. We don't want to see it on your car. We don't want to see you wearing a hat or anything else. And over the time frame of about maybe 4 months, it finally just kind of quieted down. But the group that was behind this hate was also the NAACP. And they only had that power, by the way, because Obama was still president of the United States. When he left, so did all their power. So the slave trade in America is very much alive today. You can see it, you can hear it everywhere you go. And I say it should stop. That is why everybody continues to bash Trump, because Trump stands for what people really were about in this country. We want freedom, we want liberty, we want justice, which means that it isn't just about the blacks getting retribution against everyone else who they don't like. It's about everybody being equal. That means that everybody is fairly treated. There's not this philosophy anymore, it shouldn't be a philosophy that tolerance is only for those blacks who have their own viewpoints of what they think America should be, and that includes trying to say that history should be rewritten, destroyed, for the benefit of them looking better than they were. And that we have to destroy the monuments, which they're still doing in Louisiana. They're doing it all over the United States. They're destroying monuments that were constructed after the Civil War. And they're saying these things are heinous, they're destructive, they're this, they're that. And you know what it's all about? It's the blacks saying,
go, I say go away, you bother me.
Hear our philosophy and destroy them. And I say that is more criminal than them doing nothing.